Stephen Curry learns the kid who designed his first shoes died before seeing them released. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today, and if you like this story, don't forget to subscribe. Stephen Curry sat at his locker, taping his ankles like he'd done 1,000 times. The arena buzzed faintly in the distance. Another game night. Another shot to make history. But tonight felt off, and he couldn't figure out why. It started earlier that morning at Under Armour's headquarters. He was there for a quick brand meeting, something routine. They walked him through next season's prototypes, future campaigns, and then, in a quiet hallway near the design wing, they stopped beside a glass case on the wall. "This one's been up since the Curry one," the rep said. "The original sketch inspiration." Inside the case was a framed piece of lined paper, yellowed slightly. Bold lines shaped a basketball shoe, angular, fast, alive. Along the edges, a kid's handwriting labeled every part, "Fire Fade Here," "Blue Ice Bottom," and in big letters across the top, "For Steven." Steph leaned closer. He remembered this. "Who sent this again?" he asked, more to himself. The rep checked a clipboard. I think it was a fan named Ethan Ray. Sketches came in before your first signature shoe dropped. He mailed them straight to us, no agent, no press, just a letter and that drawing." Steph blinked. That name. Ethan Ray. The kid from Ohio. He remembered watching the video his team had forwarded him back then. A skinny boy in a hospital bed, surrounded by sneakers and crayons. His smile had been contagious. He was battling something. Steph hadn't remembered the name, just how determined the kid had looked as he held up that shoe sketch. "I thought I sent a video back," Steph said, turning away from the glass. "You did." "Never heard back from the family, though. We archived it all after the launch." The rep tapped the case. "Pretty powerful stuff." Steph nodded slowly. Something tugged at him, something unfinished. But there wasn't time to dwell. He had a flight to catch and a game to prepare for. Hours later, back in the locker room, the buzz of the crowd faded as he sat thinking. The kid's name echoed in his mind. Ethan Ray. He remembered how raw those sketches were. Not professional, not polished. But full of energy. Heart. They'd sparked something in him when Under Armour's top designers felt stale. Steph had pushed hard for a design based off those sketches. It had been his first real stamp on something beyond the court. Everyone had praised the Curry one. He wore them like armor, but he never thought to ask what happened to the kid who sparked it all. Later that night, after the win, Steph skipped the usual press interviews. He headed straight back to his hotel and found himself searching his old messages. After a few tries, he located the video he'd sent. "Hey Ethan. Steph here. I saw your sketches, man, these are fire. You've got real talent. Can't wait to show you what we're working on." It ended with him holding up the early prototype. There was no reply. Not even a read receipt. He scrolled through the original email chain. His manager had added a scanned letter. Steph never read it, just trusted the team to handle it. He clicked it open now. The handwriting was neat. The letter read, "Dear Steven, my son Ethan worked on these sketches through the worst weeks of his treatment. He believed you'd fly in them. He wanted to give you something that would last. He doesn't have much time, but he said if anyone would understand, it'd be you. With gratitude, Melissa Ray." Steph stared at the words. Doesn't have much time. He froze. He searched for more, obituaries, GoFundMe pages, anything. It didn't take long. Ethan Ray passed away just 3 days after mailing the package. The news barely made a ripple online. A local article, a funeral photo. A boy in a Curry jersey, beaming. Steph sat back, stunned. He'd never known. The kid never saw the shoes released. Never got to hear his name whispered through the sneaker world. Steph had worn those shoes in some of his biggest moments, built a legacy on top of them. But Ethan was never part of that story, at least not publicly. Steph couldn't sleep that night. The thought kept circling. How many people had worn those shoes, never knowing where they started? How many had praised the look, the lines, the colors, and yet the kid who dreamed them up never lived to see a pair? The next morning, he flew back early to Under Armour, unannounced. "I want to see the archives," he told them. They were surprised, but didn't ask questions. A young intern, Kelly, showed him around. Boxes, drawings, notes, some organized, most not. She dug out the original envelope. Inside was the sketch, the letter, and something sealed in another envelope. "Was this ever opened?" Steph asked. Kelly shook her head. "No. It was marked private. Said open only if needed. I figured that was for you." Steph opened it slowly. Inside, a second note, written by Ethan this time. In blue crayon. "Dear Steph, I hope you like my shoe design. I know I might not be here when you wear them, but I wanted you to have something from me. Please play like I'm watching. And if people ever ask where the idea came from, maybe you could say my name. That'd be cool. Your fan. Ethan Ray." Steph folded the letter. No cameras. No audience. Just silence. He stood there for a long time, gripping that piece of paper like it was the game ball of a finals win. Because to him, it was. He looked back at the intern. "Do you know where his mom is now?" She tapped the computer. "Looks like she moved to Baltimore. She's a nurse." Steph didn't hesitate. "Give me the address. The meeting, the arena, the schedule, it could all wait." Because finally, years later, Steph Curry knew what he had to do. He owed a kid his name. The car ride to Baltimore was quiet. Steph stared out the tinted window, watching the city blur past. His assistant had offered to arrange a more official visit, media coverage, a small ceremony even. Steph said no. This wasn't for the cameras. This was personal. The address wasn't far from a local hospital. A modest apartment complex with peeling paint and a cracked front walkway. Steph didn't expect a mansion, but the humility of it still hit him. Ethan's mother, Melissa, had written that letter in this very building. Probably cried in this hallway. Probably folded that envelope with her son in the next room. He knocked. No answer. He knocked again, gentler this time. A voice behind the door called out. "Coming." The door opened slowly. A woman in her early 40s stood there, hair pulled back in a tired ponytail, dark circles under her eyes. She wore scrubs and held a lunch container in one hand. She didn't recognize him at first. Then her eyes widened. "Stephen Curry," she said, almost in disbelief. Steph nodded, his voice soft. "Hi. You're Melissa Ray, right?" She didn't speak. Her mouth moved slightly, but no words came. Finally, she stepped aside and motioned for him to come in. The apartment was small but clean. Pictures lined the walls. One of Ethan in a hospital bed, holding a basketball. Another of him with his mom at a high school game. A small shelf with shoes, none expensive, but all neatly arranged. A pair of Curry ones sat in the middle, slightly worn. "I'm sorry to come unannounced," Steph said, sitting on the couch when she motioned. "I thought," she paused. "I thought maybe they forgot." Steph looked at her. "My letter. Ethan's sketch. Everything." "No," he said. "I saw it. I loved it. The shoe wouldn't be the same without it." Tears formed in her eyes. She shook her head, half laughing. "He kept asking me if you'd wear them. That's all he talked about those last few weeks. He'd sketch until midnight, even when the chemo made his hands shake." Steph leaned forward, reaching into his bag. He pulled out a box. Inside was a pair of customized Curry ones. Ethan's design, exact to the lines he had drawn. The words "fly like no one else" were etched into the soles. Melissa gasped when she saw them. These are his. They're yours now, Steph said. I wanted to bring them to you. Not just as thanks, but because I should have done this a long time ago. She covered her mouth and nodded, trying to hold back emotion. Steph let the silence sit. He glanced around again, this time really taking in the room. There were drawings taped to the fridge, old sketches, all by Ethan. Concepts for shoes, jerseys, even imaginary logos. Ethan hadn't just been a fan. He had been a creator. I didn't know, Steph said. No one told me he passed. Melissa looked away. We didn't want to make it about that. We just wanted you to see him. Not the illness. Just him. You succeeded, Steph said. He's the reason I fought for that design. It felt real. Not like the usual pitches. Melissa picked up the pair of shoes. He would have been so proud. He didn't care about fame. He just wanted to be part of something. Steph hesitated before speaking again. He was part of something. He still is. But I want to make that clear now. I want to tell his story. She met his eyes. You mean publicly? Yeah. But only if you're okay with it. She nodded slowly. He wanted people to remember him. Not as the sick kid. As someone who gave something to the game. Steph stood. Then let's make sure they do. Back in his hotel room, Steph sat with the letter again. Ethan's handwriting, shaky but determined, stared back at him. The words echoed. Play like I'm watching. He pulled out his phone and opened Notes. He began typing a message to his team. We're changing the next game shoes. Full tribute. I'll handle it. The next morning, headlines broke, Steph Curry planning tribute to late fan who designed his first shoes. The sneaker world buzzed with speculation. Who was the kid? Why now? What happened? But Steph wasn't interested in interviews. He had one mission, to tell the story right. Back at Under Armour, Steph met with the design team. We're going to recreate Ethan's sketch exactly, he said. Same line weight. Same colors. But I want the message embedded, fly like no one else. And his name on the tongue. Bold. They worked fast. Within days, the prototype was ready. Steph held the pair in his hands. It felt like something more than gear. It felt sacred. The tribute game approached. Steph stayed quiet all week, no quotes, no promos. He just trained. Focused. Dialed in. When game night came, he walked onto the court in Ethan's shoes. The crowd didn't know the full story yet. But they felt something. He played different that night. Relentless. Joyful. As if every move was being watched by someone who mattered more than anyone in the stands. He scored 47 points. 9 threes. 4 steals. A near triple-double. But none of that was the highlight. After the final buzzer, he took off one shoe, held it up, and pointed to the sky. Then, without saying a word, he left the court. The cameras zoomed in on the name stitched into the tongue, Ethan Ray. The internet exploded. Within hours, #FlyLikeEthan trended worldwide. Melissa's inbox filled with messages. Schools posted kids sketching shoes, trying to be like Ethan. Designers from all over shared how they started just like him, with a dream and a pencil. Steph's team released a video that night. A quiet, simple montage. Ethan's drawings. His smile. His voice saying, maybe one day, Steph will fly in these. It ended with Steph's voice saying, he gave me wings. And I'll never forget. Melissa watched it alone. She didn't cry this time. She smiled. Because now, the world knew her son. And more importantly, her son knew the game had never forgotten him. The next morning, Steph sat at his kitchen table, phone buzzing nonstop. Messages poured in from old teammates, reporters, fans, even players he hadn't spoken to in years. Everyone wanted to talk about Ethan. "Never seen you like that on the court, man," Draymond texted. "What got into you?" Steph didn't reply right away. He just scrolled through the messages, letting them come and go. The night before still lingered in his chest, not just the win, not the points, but what it felt like to finally carry Ethan with him out loud. For years, Ethan had been a silent part of his legacy. Now, the silence had been broken. Under Armour's social team had turned the tribute into a short campaign called Wings of a Dream. The image of the shoe, with Ethan's design and quote, was everywhere. But Steph didn't want it to stop there. He didn't just want to share Ethan's story, he wanted to give others like him a chance to be seen. Later that day, Steph called a meeting with Under Armour execs. "I want to start something new," he told them. "A design initiative. For kids like Ethan. Kids with talent but no access. Maybe they're sick, maybe they're just underdogs, but they've got heart. I want them to know their ideas matter." The room was quiet at first. Then someone asked, "You mean like a scholarship program?" "No," Steph said. "More than that. Real design access. Let them work with us. Let them design shoes that get released. Give them credit, not just a pat on the head." It wasn't just a marketing idea. He meant it. He wanted names printed, sketches preserved, dreams validated. The team agreed to pilot the program. Steph would fund it himself if he had to. A few days later, he was back in Baltimore, this time with a proposal for Melissa. "I'm calling it the Ethan Ray Design Initiative," he said. "I want you involved." Melissa blinked. "Involved how?" "You pick the first kids. You help guide it. This is your son's legacy. Not just mine." She looked overwhelmed, but nodded. He used to say design was his way of breathing when he couldn't catch his breath. "If you can give that to someone else." Steph smiled. "That's the goal." She didn't say much else. But when he left, he saw the framed letter Ethan had written now sitting next to a clean spot on the wall, space cleared, ready for something new. Back home, Steph returned to practice. The season kept moving, as it always did. But something shifted. At each arena, kids started holding up sketches. At signings, they handed him drawings instead of jerseys. Even after games, when reporters asked about his performance, he redirected the spotlight. "There are kids out there designing futures," he said once after a win. "We just need to notice." One night, while reviewing submissions for the initiative, Steph came across a drawing from a 14-year-old girl named Zaira in Chicago. It was a bold concept, sharp edges, metallic tones, but balanced with soft curves and handwritten notes that reminded him of Ethan's first sketches. She explained how she used to make shoe designs with her brother, who passed away 2 years ago. Steph called her personally. "Zaira, this is Steph Curry. I saw your sketch." She didn't speak right away. Then, softly, "I thought this was a scam." Steph laughed. "I'm real." "Your design? It's fire. I want you in the program." Her voice cracked. "Really? Really? You've got talent. I'd love for you to work with the team on something." Steph didn't tell her that her drawing reminded him of loss, or how her words mirrored Ethan's spirit. He didn't have to. Weeks passed, and the first collection under the Ethan Ray Design Initiative was in progress. Young designers across the country were invited to virtual workshops, getting mentorship from real professionals. It wasn't about who had the fanciest tools. It was about passion, persistence, and raw vision. Steph visited the design lab one day to see the first physical prototype of Zaira's shoe. He turned it over in his hands. It had bold, jagged sides but a soft interior grip that cushioned like memory foam. Inside the tongue, the name J, embroidered. Her brother. "This is powerful," Steph said. Zaira beamed. He always said if we could design something together, it would have to protect and push at the same time. That's exactly what this does, Steph said. The release date was set for spring. Steph pushed for a quiet rollout, no celebrities, no huge ad blitz. Just the kids, their stories, and the shoes. Let the work speak. The public response was overwhelming. Not because of the names, but because of the emotion. Each shoe came with a card, the story behind the design. Real people, real battles, real dreams. One of the shoes sold out in 6 hours. Another crashed the site. Melissa watched the live stream from home. When Zyra stepped on stage during the soft launch, wearing her creation and thanking her brother, Melissa wiped tears away. She called Steph afterward. "You didn't just honor Ethan," she said. "You built something bigger." Steph sat in his hotel room, smiling. "I just lit the match," he said. "He's the spark." That night, he laced up a pair of Zyra's shoes for warm-ups. The cameras caught it. Fans noticed. Kids noticed. And Ethan? Steph knew, wherever he was, he noticed too. That season, Steph played freer than ever. Not just for wins or legacy, but for moments. Every crossover, every three-pointer, every sneaker squeak felt like it echoed something more than competition. It echoed Ethan. He kept the letter in his locker, folded inside a plastic sleeve. Before each game, he'd take a moment, read one line, play like I'm watching. And he did. Every single night. Steph stood in the tunnel, moments before tip-off. The arena was packed, but his focus was locked in. His fingers ran across the message etched on the insole of his shoe, "Fly like no one else." Tonight was the first nationally televised game where he'd wear a design from the Ethan Ray Initiative live on air. The shoe had been created by Malik, a 16-year-old from Oakland, who had never stepped inside a design studio before this program. Malik's sketch had arrived in a yellow folder with creases in every corner. The design had bright reds, thick black contours, and one wild note scribbled in the margin, for when you've got fire in your chest and no place to let it out. Steph had called him personally, too. The kid's story mirrored the kind of hardship people rarely talked about. His older brother had been killed in a street dispute 2 years earlier. Since then, Malik had poured himself into drawing sneakers, using his grief to create something sharp, something bold. Now, Steph was about to bring those shoes to life on the biggest stage he could. The lights dimmed. The announcers called his name. He jogged out to the roar of the crowd, but in his mind, he saw Malik's face on that first Zoom call, nervous, quiet, and stunned that Steph Curry had dialed in just to say, "You're seen. And I'm going to wear your shoes." The game started off tough. The other team was physical, crowding Steph on the perimeter, chasing over every screen. But he didn't panic. He moved through the first quarter testing the defense, setting up others, feeling out the rhythm. By the second half, he caught fire. Step-backs. Floaters. Logo threes. His defenders grew frustrated. He was too fast, too smooth, too calm. But it wasn't just skill, it was focus. He played like someone with a mission. Late in the fourth, up by just 2 points, Steph isolated near the top. Crowd chanting, shot clock ticking. He crossed, spun, and pulled up from deep, draining a three over 2 defenders. The camera panned down to his shoes just as he landed. The commentators caught it. "Those aren't his usual kicks," one said. "Anyone know what he's wearing tonight?" Social media exploded. Close-up photos flooded Twitter and Instagram. Someone zoomed in on the side of the shoe, where it read, "Designed by Malik D." Steph finished with 42 points and the win, but in the post-game interview, he didn't talk about the game. "These aren't mine," he said, holding up the shoes. "They were designed by a 16-year-old from Oakland who's been through more than most of us ever will. He's got fire in his chest. Tonight, I just carried it for him." The clip went viral. The next day, Malik and his mom were invited to ESPN studios. Malik wore a Curry jersey, but it was his own shoes that stole the spotlight. Sitting in the green room after the segment, Malik looked around, still in shock. "I didn't think anyone would care about a sketch," he said quietly. His mom wiped her eyes. "They care now. And not just because of Steph." Steph called later that night. "You good?" he asked. "Yeah," Malik said, trying not to sound too excited. "I saw the game." "You should have seen the crowd," Steph said. "You had people in the first row asking how to get your shoes." Malik laughed. "I don't even know how to answer that." "You just keep designing," Steph said. "I got the rest." Back at Under Armour HQ, the program began to expand. More submissions came in each week, from every corner of the country. Kids from reservations, inner cities, rural farms, each with a story, each with a sketch. Melissa Ray now worked as the official program liaison. She was the one reading each letter first, helping decide who would be contacted. It gave her a new purpose. After Ethan passed, her days had felt empty. Now, she was filling that space with something that helped others like her son be heard. One afternoon, while reviewing a batch of sketches, Melissa came across an envelope with no return address. Just a single name on the back, Noah. Inside was a worn notebook page with a shoe design and a short message: "I've never played basketball, but my sister used to. She died last year. These are her dream shoes. I hope they get made." The sketch was beautiful, delicate, full of floral patterns, with hints of strength in the arch support and reinforced heel. Steph saw it and went quiet. "This one," he said. "I want these for my playoff run." The team hesitated. "They're feminine," one said. Steph nodded. "Exactly. And powerful. Let's make it happen." The shoes were made. Not flashy. Not loud. But striking in their elegance. Steph debuted them in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. The league had never seen a tribute quite like that. The broadcast showed a split screen, Steph driving to the rim on one side, and on the other, a shot of the note from Noah. The story behind the shoe was released at halftime. Steph played like he always did, unselfish, fierce, and precise. But the crowd felt something deeper. Every move he made seemed tied to a larger narrative of loss, hope, and tribute. After the win, reporters asked what the shoes meant to him. He paused. "They mean someone out there wanted their sister remembered. And now the world knows her name." Backstage, Steph met Noah for the first time. The boy was shy, barely spoke. Steph handed him the game-worn pair. "She would have loved these," he said. Noah didn't reply. He just nodded, clutching the shoes like they were treasure. As the playoffs continued, Steph alternated designs from the initiative. Each game, a new tribute. A new voice. A new story carried forward. By the time the finals arrived, the world had stopped asking who made Steph's shoes. They already knew. Kids like Ethan. Kids like Malik. Kids like Noah. And the one still sketching in silence, hoping someone like Steph might one day notice. He had noticed. And now, the whole world was watching with him. The lights in the arena dimmed. The finals had come down to Game 7. The score was tied. 40 seconds on the clock. Golden State possession. Timeout. Steph Curry sat on the bench, towel over his shoulders, heart pounding. Around him, the noise swelled like thunder, cheering, stomping, chanting his name. But in his mind, everything was quiet. Coach looked at him. "You good?" Steph nodded once. "I know what I'm doing." He looked down at his shoes. This final game, he had saved something special. A brand new pair, never seen by the public, designed by a 15-year-old boy named Liam. Diagnosed with a degenerative nerve disorder. Bound to a wheelchair, but full of energy. The sketches came months ago, drawn in thick, determined lines with shaky hands. The design had one message stitched across the heel: "Even if I can't run, you can for me." Steph had worn all kinds of shoes this year. Each one had a story. Each one a tribute. But tonight, this pair was for every kid who never made it onto the court, who still dreamed from hospital beds, bedrooms, and small apartments where hope was louder than circumstance. Back on the court, the clock resumed. 38 seconds. Warriors ball. Steph dribbled up slowly, eyes scanning. The defense was tight, crowding him near half court. He passed to Clay, got it back. Clock ticked. 15 seconds. No double team. He took the shot. The ball sailed high, smooth, clean, silent. Nothing but net. The arena erupted. Timeout. Opponent possession. Steph didn't celebrate. He just pointed down at his shoes, then up to the rafters. The camera caught it. So did millions of fans watching around the world. The other team failed to score. Buzzer. Confetti. Golden State wins the championship. But for Steph, the win was only part of it. After the celebration, champagne, and handshakes, he slipped away quietly. Down the tunnel, past the cameras, back to the locker room. He pulled out his phone and recorded a short message. To Liam, he said, looking into the lens. Tonight, I ran for you. And we flew. He uploaded it without fanfare. No hashtags. Just truth. By morning, the video had millions of views. The next day, Steph flew to Maryland. No entourage. No press. Just him and a box in his hands. Melissa Ray greeted him at the door with a quiet smile. It's over? It's just starting, he said. Inside her home, photos lined the walls now, Ethan's art, pictures from recent events, letters from kids in the program. She'd made it into a small museum of dreams. Ethan's framed sketch hung above the dining table. Steph placed the box down. I saved the final pair. Game 7s. I want you to have them. Melissa opened the lid. Inside were Liam's shoes, worn from the court, scuffed from the paint, but gleaming. Why these? She asked. Because Ethan started all this, Steph said. And this win, it belongs to him, too. They sat for a while, no words. Just understanding. Later, Melissa asked softly, what now? Steph thought for a moment. I keep playing. Not just games, playing forward. Making sure kids know they're not invisible. That creativity matters. That dreams, even small ones, can change the world. Melissa smiled. That's what Ethan believed. I know, Steph said. And because of him, so do I. A week later, Under Armour held a press event announcing the next phase of the Ethan Ray Design Initiative. It was going global. With new scholarships, mentorships, and even travel opportunities for selected youth. Melissa stood on stage with Steph as a co-founder, addressing the media for the first time. She didn't speak long. Just one sentence. My son never made it to the court, but now he's part of every game. The audience stood. Applause rang out. A month passed. Then 2. Off-season came. Steph walked into a quiet gym one afternoon, alone. Just a ball and the sound of sneakers on hardwood. He laced up a custom pair, this time, designed by a group of kids from a refugee shelter in Turkey. Bright colors. Wild shapes. One tongue said hope. The other, flight. He shot around in silence. No cameras. No coaches. Just him and the game. After an hour, he sat at center court, sweat dripping down his back, ball resting on his knee. He looked around at the empty stands, the stillness of the space, and smiled. So much had changed. He reached into his bag and pulled out a folded letter. The original. Ethan's. Play like I'm watching. He read it once more, then tucked it away. He knew Ethan was watching. So were Malik, Zaira, Noah, Liam, and dozens more. Kids who'd once been invisible now had a place on the court, etched in design, and stories, and moments that lived far beyond the buzzer. Steph stood and walked to the sideline. Before leaving, he glanced back at the court. This wasn't just a game anymore. It was a legacy built from crayons, hospital beds, broken dreams turned whole. A reminder that greatness doesn't just come from points and wins, but from how you carry others with you. He walked out the door, ready for whatever came next. And behind him, in the stillness of the gym, it felt like 1,000 silent footsteps followed. Every single one, flying.